interested in finding more about extended single sideband audio experimentation? High fidelity surround sound for sideband by VK5 Radio Sierra.
Okay. G'day, Tony.
Very good. Good morning, Ivan.
Oh, good evening to me. Good morning to you, mate. That's it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The very first episode of what I've imagined as a series of streams discussing the our favorite topic of eSSB audio. So, Tony, how you been?
Very good, Ivan. I'm honoured that you've picked me to go into this video first as well. Chuck me in the
chuck
me in the deep end.
In a deep end. That's it. Yeah, but the thing is that you pick the people that you're comfortable
Of course.
in terms of the relationship. So I would say that it's not just that; it's the fact that you've been doing it for a while. You've been through the full circle, if I can say it that way, and
Yes.
you've definitely changed your rack a few times and got enough experience under your belt to be able to give us a few insights that will be valuable for the general
Oh,
audience.
for sure. We've been down the rabbit hole and we've come out the other side. I think so.
Hey, isn't that interesting how many times we change things, and sometimes we get possessed about hey, I don't like this, let's do X, Y, Z in terms of the changes, and then you end up with the verse than where you were when you first started.
Full circle. Yeah, the times that I've been full circle is just crazy. And I think one of the golden rules is you need a lot of patience with it.
Yes,
a lot of patience, and I think we almost get the sound we want.
Yes,
but I think it's in our nature as amateur radio operators to tinker.
Yes, and to fiddle with the knobs.
We keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and just like you said, you end up going full circle back where you began.
Yes,
it's crazy, really, but it's a good process though. It's a good journey. So, well, I'll say good. Late nights, lots of talking to yourself, going mad.
Check 1 2.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Yeah, I've known people be taken away in the white coat for less. It's crazy, but the end result is if you're patient enough, is a fantastic end result.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, Tony, without getting carried away with just a general chat, what about if we start discussing, how do you perceive eSSB? What is it for you? If you can just explain to people that I think that the intent is just to paint a picture of, for the newcomers that are interested in jumping into this realm of, modeled audio for HF. Where should they start, and how do you see it, and what's your advice?
Well, but where should they start? I think it's a minefield when you first look at, or you'll hear somebody doing eSSB and you'll think, well, there's two things. You'll either think, what on earth is he doing? Or number two, you'll think, wow, I like that. Yeah. And that's where it begins.
Yes.
If you hear somebody that's tailored their audio in the way that we do things, yes, you'll sit and think, wow, I want that. I want to do that. And where do they start? I think they need to be just calling into people like myself and other like-minded people like yourself, Onder, Adam, Tim, M0KEP. There's John 2E0RSL, John G0TIY. There's loads and loads of. I mean, that's just to name a few. Neil 2E0KAX. There's lots over here. I think these people need to call in and they need to get a pen and paper and they need to ask all the questions they need that's in their mind, so because where they start with what EQ and everything, and microamps.
Fair enough. And Tony, from your perspective, what do you consider eSSB? Let's just clear something up before you answer that question. So eSSB stands for extended single sideband. It's not enhanced. Yes. It's not, whatever other abbreviation you people come up with. So
No
it's
voodoo.
the only true meaning of eSSB is extended single sideband, and the reason why it's extended is because we obviously occupy a bit more of the TX bandwidth. So
Yeah.
in that regard, where do you see what's the magic number for you, and why?
Magic number in bandwidth, Ivan.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
For me, the magic is 8 kilohertz is beautiful. It really
yes,
is. Of course, it really annoys people,
yes,
but we're very considerate. We make sure we don't open up. We check on our neighbours below us. If
yes,
there's nobody underneath, we open up. But that said, you're only going to sound as good as the person the other end can receive you.
yes.
Okay. So
Well
they're going to
said.
need to be like-minded and have a similar sort of receiver to be able to listen at that. For me, though, I think the golden bandwidth is 4 kilohertz. You can achieve so much with 4 kilohertz. FTDX 10, FTDX 5000s. I mean, just plug one of those in, and they will sound magic at 4 kilohertz, Ivan. Yeah.
Yeah, true, true. And in saying that, so we've obviously cleared up the fact that somebody has to have the ability to listen to the bandwidth that you're transmitting. So
Yeah.
that would be the thing number one. But what I was gonna say is, I have to agree with you. I've experimented with the transmitted bandwidth, and I would say that 6K for me is definitely a sweet spot.
Oh
I
yeah.
think past 6 kilohertz, I'm starting to um, step into the territory that is definitely diminishing returns theory, I would say. So I
Yeah.
mean, the difference between 6 and 8 is probably not that obvious. But would it be fair to say, Tony, that what we're trying to do is to replicate that 20 kilohertz high fidelity sound and pack it into 4K? Would that be
Yeah.
the point of what we're trying to
Yeah. Yeah.
achieve?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's what we're doing. And that's where I don't think a lot of people appreciate how much work we put into
Yes.
packing, as you quite rightfully put it, packing it all down. You're condensing it. You're almost making it, for want of a better expression or way to put it, many people will see it like this. You're condensing it down. You're MP3 in it, if you like.
Yes.
If you like.
Yes. Yes.
You are compacting it down into a acceptable, sensible bandwidth. And look, most modern radios now, bar the ICOMs, will do 4K, and honestly, it's just such a lovely bandwidth to go at. But the hard work and effort that goes into getting it into that's where your patience are needed, because
Yes.
there's lots and lots of different things that you need to just to be patient with, and tried all sorts of different things with it,
I think that I should say this just for the people that are inclined to critique, that the qualifying criteria for the eSSB is 3 kilohertz. So
Of course.
that's the bottom end. So we start at 3K, and then obviously sky's the
Yeah.
limit. I would say that you're spot on, and for somebody that has seen a bit of a studio recording, which is myself, I can definitely tell you that trying to replicate that rich high fidelity sound that you get with 20 kilohertz when a singer sings into a microphone and you record it, that's an enormous spectrum. You know what I mean? The energy is
Oh yeah.
just
Yeah.
humongous. And if you try to replicate that and pack it into 4K, which is the term we used before, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I've been
Oh, it's incredibly difficult.
yeah, I've
Incredibly difficult.
been caught in this trap before where think that a too much bass will sound muddy. Too much high end will split. It'll split at the end at the high end. So what I was going to say is, a pop up saying that I'm running out of time. Hopefully, they're not going to cut us off. So what I was going to say is, what do you think that if somebody's interested, they want to dip their toes into the eSSB waters, what's a good starting point, Tony? I mean, look, we can really elaborate on these, like in terms of the equipment. You know, you can see, I can see your rack, you can see my rack. You know, it's not a cheap game, but is there a compromise that somebody can really try this on a budget friendly terms?
Yes, there is. There is, yeah. And this is what I tell everybody. This what you see here, all this is that's I call this the right place, the right time, all this, because I'm very lucky, got all these lovely gadgets and lovely boxes over a period of time. This is, as you said, so expensive, Ivan, it really is. But it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, look, people will frown, growl, snort, whatever at Behringer. Behringer equipment, it will get you into the world of eSSB, and it will have you sounding delightful. It really will. It'll have you sounding beautiful. You know, their mic preamp, the 2496, which is their well, it's like a it's like a Swiss Army knife. The 2496, it does everything.
Yeah,
you know, it's fantastic.
Well, in terms of the resources, I have to mention John and U9N.
Yes.
He's got an amazing website there that, you know, he's put a lot of time and effort into developing that some years ago, but it's up there. And if you haven't seen it and you're interested in this part of the hobby, you should definitely have a look at the nu9n.com. But the thing is that I think that he is the person that has definitely mastered the 2496 operation, and it's amazing. I've heard John on 3630 in America on Kiwi SDR. It's amazing what you can achieve in terms of the sound with very little gear, I have to say.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, John is he's like a stalwart for Behringer gear. He loves the Behringer stuff. The simplicity in which he uses, in which he goes at it with, is fantastic. Another person that, you know, as you delve around the internet, people may or may not bump into this guy, and you may, I think you do know who it is, but you've got Mike, WZ5Q.
Okay.
Now he is an out of this world god when it comes to audio. With regards to, I mean, we're talking right at the other end of the spectrum here now, where I mean, there's no mod he hasn't done on the 950 SDX, and a lot of other equipment like these Valve Classics and other things. You know, it's just they're fantastic, but there's such a good resource now. What he does as well, as John Annan's NU9N has done, they put up some resources for us to go to, and you have settings that they have put up for us to try and use. But as with everything, they're sort of a benchmark. You know, you've then got to go in and tailor things for yourself, your voice. You know, because we've all got our own sort of sound. Our voices, different characteristics. Some have got a deeper voice than others. Blah blah blah. So you need to tailor it for that, and that's where all the fun begins. You know, with you getting it right to sound with your voice. Because so many people say to me, "Oh, can I have your settings?" And I say to them, "Yeah, of course you can." I've got a set of frequencies that I sort of give to people, and they're quite famous now here in the UK. These frequencies are, but I say to people, put them in. They might not quite suit you, but it's a hell of a starting point for you to go off of. You may need to change certain things, you know, and
I think
that's another important thing.
I think we have agreed on this, Tony, before in previous discussions you and me had, that yes, we're all different, and yes, we all have different voices and sound characteristics, and you know, you might do 80 hertz and I might do 71 or whatever that is.
Of course, yeah.
But in general, these regions, if I can call them, amongst the transmitted bandwidth of the EQ we're trying to do, would be, like you said, you know, a pretty damn good starting point for everybody to know where to pay the attention.
For sure.
Something that I really got to demystify for the beginners is, I've just remembered this. You know, when I first started, I remember this, and I got my first EQ, and I can't remember what it was. I used to have the blue TLA Classic like yours.
Yeah.
I bought it from Canada. I remember, on that reverb.com, and I used to just boost everything. Like
Oh yeah.
I had boost, left to right. Every single
Yeah.
frequency was a boost.
Yeah, I did the same thing, Ivan. And people must never forget, all the newcomers must never forget that less is actually more.
More.
You don't need to. I mean, what the aim of the game is here is, I think, which took a while for me to learn because I did the same as you. Everything was on plus 15,
Yes,
loads
yes.
of mid range screaming its knackers off. It was awful, but you just you need to take away the nasty things in our voice.
Yes.
And tame them, not necessarily remove them completely, because you can sound too drawn in if you remove too much mid range, which isn't good.
Yeah.
If you remove too much of something, it's not good. And then again, on the other side of the coin is you don't want too much bass. You don't need loads of bass. You need your natural sound, and to control that and to give you what we call in this eSSB world separation is. You mentioned 71, maybe 72 hertz for you, 80 hertz for me.
Yes.
That there. When you use a nice cut there, which is a cut of usually anywhere from about -4 to -8, -10. Some people, subject to how deep your voice is.
Yes.
That will then let people understand, or you can differentiate between your low end and your mid range. That separates things. It keeps a nice balance, and that's important. That is.
It does 100%. Somebody said to me a long time ago, and this is not even back then, it wasn't even related to the amateur radio terms, but this has stuck into my head like hot glue, and it relates to the EQing, and it says cut to improve, boost to change. So
yes.
that's something that I have definitely remembered.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
so, for sure.
If I look at I just got a glimpse of the EQ when you were talking about it. I can tell you that I have only one channel on my 8-band EQ that's a boost of 1 dB, which is my 3.2. The rest are all cuts. Yeah. The rest are all cuts.
Yeah. See, I don't. Here for me, I don't have. I look at one. I only use. I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 channels. 2 channels are not in use on this. I only use 6 channels of EQ, and the only boost I have. But again, I don't want to overcomplicate this early in.
Mm-hmm.
But when I use a boost on my lowest frequency, and that's about 2, maybe 3 dB, possibly. I mean, with the TL audio, it's pretty difficult to know where you are actually. But if we said between 2 to 4 dB boost, but when I boost that, I use a very, very narrow octave, very narrow, because again, octaves can also play. They're almost like an extension of your gain as well, because. What you're doing is, with an octave, you are broadening, or you're tightening up where your low end is. Now, the tighter your low end is, for me, this is how I find, is it just makes things. How can I put it? If you end up with a flabby low end, it's just going to be all over the shop and just sound awful, I think, and not good. Hence why you need the 80 hertz to keep it in check, and a tight, narrow octave, I find, works really, really well. Again, experimenting is key here.
Is the key. You're right. Hey, and now that you mentioned the Q, I need to underline this, that a lot of people would see graphic equalizers out there very, very cheap compared to the parametric. Now let's just differentiate between them two. Graphic equalizers have the fixed Q. You can't change it. You can only change the gain of the given frequencies that you got. The parametric, on the other side, you can choose the frequency, you can choose the gain, and you can choose the Q. So that is absolutely right. You're right, because the wider the Q, the more frequencies you affect on that this computer. All right, so we were rudely interrupted by the Zoom people, but we'll forgive them this time. Anyway, so we were talking, discussing the difference between the parametric and graphic equalizer.
Yes.
When the recording cut off, So apologies for that to the wider audience, but here we are. We're going to continue. So yes, and just to recap, we did say that it's the graphic equalizers are cheap, and people could be drawn to them, purely from the price perspective. So hey,
Yes.
this could be something I can start with. Just bear in mind that you will be very, very limited in terms of what you can tailor with that. I'm not saying they can't be used. They definitely can be used, but your ability to change the cue will be out of the window. Your ability
Yeah.
to change the frequency will be out of the window, because you can only play with the preset frequencies that graphic equalizer comes with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And Mate, you know what? There's one topic that I think it's not discussed very often, and it should be. It should be actually a paramount for everybody else. QRO ready. Like, we all understand that eSSB is all about signals. I mean, in order to enjoy the full fidelity of the sound, what do you reckon? I would need to receive you at 5.9 plus 10, or something like that. 5.9 plus 20.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You need to be 9 plus 10 dB,
Yeah,
sort of minimum, really, because
minimum. Yes.
and something else that people should always bear in mind as well with audio is with regards to HF, of course, is band conditions. Band
Yes.
conditions can play such a huge role.
Yeah, band
Huge role
phasing.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the phasing and the shifting with the propagation is
Yeah.
awful. It really is. 80 meters here, which I don't know how we got away with it for so long, as the cycle was coming up and we were getting better. But we had, I came into this 5, 6 or so years ago, and it was, we were really at a really poor place in the cycle. And I don't know how I managed to get to where I've got to, really, because it was just awful. But you need to bear that in mind as well. That's for sure. That's something that's very, very important.
And where this is leading to is, we're connecting all these, racks and external components, processing audio cables everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Mic leads, interlinking components, one to the other, to the third one, whatever. And what issue we get with that is called what? RFI.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That will be the biggest thorn in everyone's side. Everybody
Yes.
gets it. It's an absolute black art of understanding it. If we all knew, none of us would have it. But
Yes.
it will hit you without you even knowing. And
How do you battle that, Tony? I did say to my wife not long ago that I should have bought shares in a ferrite company, because
Yes.
I've got, I reckon, without exaggeration, about 10 kilos worth of this in my shack.
Yeah. So
I mean,
you've got type 31s, type 43s.
I got 41, 43, and 52. These ones are 52s. I've numbered them. But what I was going to say to you is, I don't use them just for that. I use them for my chokes as well.
Yeah, of course.
But have you got anything to share with the wider audience in terms of the, how do you address RFI in your shack? Like what do you do? Do you put a choke behind the radio, behind the amp? Do you choke your audio leads?
You can use look, type 31, I think, is, from what I found, and you can go on the internet and you can research this for yourselves, but type 31 is about the best for the frequencies we operate at, with regards to choking and ferrite and everything. You can buy the clip-on type, the smaller ones. You can get the big chunky ones. But what I do is each of my leads going between each unit have one turn with a clip-on ferrite type 31. And then I come out of my last piece of equipment, which is my Behringer FX 2000, which we'll go into in a minute about that. And then I go into what's called a one-to-one isolation transformer.
Yeah.
There's different types, of course. Now, with the particular radio I'm using, which is the Apache Labs, the Anand 8000, you don't need a DI box in the sense. You don't need to pad down, you see.
Yes,
I think I'm right in saying they're line level, aren't they? Straight in, I think.
Spot on.
And not mic level. So So I use a Jensen 1-to-1 transformer, and that then, quite simply, as it's called, isolates my radio from my rack. So it'll stop any RF coming through and everything else. That is really, really important. And of course, as you mentioned, Ivan, padding down is so important. That's something we'll go into, obviously, because if you don't, then you're going to be red hot going into the radio, and nothing will be right. Nothing will sound right at all.
Yeah, true. I think Adam pointed out this to me a long time ago. Doesn't matter where in a chain you clip, when it comes to the levels of the audio. Once you clip, you clipped. You can't unclip it, and it will sound horrible. It'll sound distorted, and that's something. Again, look, I understand that we're jumping from subject to subject, and there's so many topics to cover, and we're obviously not going to be able to discuss all of them in great detail. But gain staging is probably something that everybody that plays with components should consider.
Yeah.
Making sure that what you got in from the preamp out, is the same level coming out of your last component over there, because you will lose some of those dBs in a chain.
And, of course you will. Of course you will.
And knowing your equipment and how to set it up is also very important. But in terms of the beginner aspect, you did mention the isolation transformer, and you did mention Jensen. There's Cinemag from US. There is
SOTA transformers.
SOTA. There's a Landau as well. So there's there's number of the good quality ones out there in the marketplace. But in my particular case, I do have exactly the same thing. So before my rack gets into the Apache Labs Anan 7000, I use the 1-to-1 isolation transformer.
Yes. Yeah.
In saying that, if somebody's intending to use this rack and perhaps insert this audio into a 7300, I don't think that the line level is something they should be going for.
No.
So they would definitely need to pad it down with probably minus 40 dB to make it a mic level. And there are products out there. You probably need to look for them, but definitely, in a nutshell, you need to attenuate that signal from plus 4 dBu down to whatever's acceptable by the radio, and I'm pretty sure that's about minus 40.
Yes. Yeah. Palmer, one that works, and it's quite affordable for everyone, and there are two different sorts. Never fall into the trap of buying just a standard Palmer, Palmer Palmer box. Yeah. You must always get the Palmer Pro.
Yes.
But that has a grind lift button on it. It has, I think they're minus 35, might be minus 40 dB. I'd have to check again. But they are here in the UK about 70 UK pounds, and that gets you at a press of a button. Yes. Some superb isolation and padding.
Yeah.
And padding. They are fantastic. And as you mentioned, with a ICOM 7300, 7610, FTDX 5000, FTDX 10, and that right across that range, you are going to need to pad down, because you'll be way too hot going in, of course. And as you mentioned about the each individual piece and clipping. I mean, once you get it wrong at the start and you're too hot going in, that's going to travel through all your units, go straight into the outboard audio and into the outgoing audio, and you're going to sound rough. You're going to sound overdriven. It's going to be awful.
100%. Do you have a preference when it comes to cables, Tony? In terms of the audio cables, or do you reckon that that's not really that important?
Yes, I do have a preference, and there's most of my cables are. There's a company called these. I'm trying to go with where it's affordable, but there's a company called Stag, STAGG, here in the UK, and they use a lot of cable made by Van Dam. There's a company called Van Dam, VANDAME, Van Dam. It's that's how it's spelled, and all their leads are terminated with the not really nice Nutrix plugs as well. Yeah.
I use Nutric or Neutrik, however you properly say it. In my shack, so everything is Neutrik in terms of the plugs. but the cables are found Mogami and Kane. Kane is my favorite brand. Those
Nice.
cables that those are so thick, and the braid, the
Yeah.
shielding on that cable is just magnificent. But anyway,
Yeah.
so in terms of the RFI and choking and that sort of stuff, you did so just to finish off that segment. You said that yes, you do have clips. I can see some of them in the angle there on the corner there. Between each unit, and then you got the one-to-one isolation transformer going into the radio.
Yes.
So that eliminates your issues with RFI.
Yeah. And one other thing I must mention is this very top piece of equipment here.
Yeah.
It's a power bank or power conditioner.
Yes.
So what we have, we have the here in the UK the old-fashioned 3-pin kettle lead, IEC13 or
yep.
I think something like that. So each of these racks have that. These rack components have that piece on them, that connection. So, but I have one power lead to turn it all on, which it all goes into this power bank, which it's actually really good at conditioning RFI, just suppresses any mains noise, can help with all that. One of these is very, very, very important, just to keep your transmission as clean as possible. And again, they're not massively expensive. I mean, I picked that up secondhand for about I think it was about 80 UK pounds, that one. So it was cheap as chips, really.
Yeah, is that Furman?
No, it's Samson. So
Samson, yes. Yeah. I've seen quite a few variants. There's a Black Lion, there's Samson, there's Furman, there is
Furman are good. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I get that. And they're like, obviously dual or triple stage filters that filter the main AC and therefore eliminate any of the ground buzz noises or whatever that could be introduced into the audio. So that's very important. All right, and Tony, so I mean, yes, we have covered a lot of ground, but in terms of starting out, and when you think about your beginnings, can you paint a picture for us? Like, how was that, and when did you start, and how did you start, and what was your first rake, and what was the second, and how did you get to what you call now, for yourself, obviously, in your head, the perfect rake?
Okay, well, I started with the W2 IHY equipment, Julius, in America.
Yes.
It's fantastic equipment. I started with that, and an Icom 7610, I think, was the first radio I had. And
very limited in bandwidth, though, isn't it?
Very, very, very limited. It lets you receive at 3.6K. You can receive, but that's where it ends, to be honest. And I just didn't know anything. But of course, like we all do with radio, you listen around, and certain people I was listening to, I thought, wow, they sound good. What are they doing? And then you listen a bit more. And then if you're like me, I'm quite brazen, as in I'm quite forward. I'm not scared to ask questions. I call into these people and say, right, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And then you sort of understand, or you see a picture, they send you a link or some pictures of what they're doing, and then you end up seeing all these humongous boxes, and you think, wow, Jesus. I need that. I need to do that. I need to do that. Yes. I need to do it. And then you venture off looking, eBay, Reverb. There's loads of different places you can look. And
of course,
and I must stress, as I did before, never be frightened of some people don't like Behringer stuff equipment. They say it's cheap and nasty. It colors your sound. I disagree with that. I disagree. I think for you to want to get into audio, don't go out and splash out on all this expensive stuff straight away. See if you like it, because it could be after a month of bashing your head against a wall thinking this ain't working, you're going to sell it all. So you're going to lose a stack of money, which is not needed to be done. Behringer audio equipment, I think, is where it is where I began.
Look, there's only I'm going to really interrupt you, but there's only one thing that I need to say, and this is very, very. I've experienced this on my own skin. I have started with Behringer gear. Went out one day. You can ask Honda about this, and I bought everything. Bought a preamp, bought the Sonic Exciter, bought the FX, the same as yours, the 2000. and I'm thinking, well, this is it. I've what did I have in terms of the mics? I've borrowed from a friend the RE27.
Yeah,
All
yeah, yeah.
right,
Nice microphone, electro
nice
voiced.
microphone, yes, electro voice. But you know what? That's remind me to talk about the microphones in a second. But what was I going to say about that is that you will find out that if you do like this segment of the hobby, and you want
Yes,
to further explore it, you're gonna be facing the brick wall very, very soon because you will outgrow the capabilities of Behringer and what they're going
without a
to
doubt.
offer
Yeah,
within weeks. All right.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
what are you gonna do? You're gonna sell all of that, lose some money, and then you're gonna
yeah,
start buying proper equipment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's right. That's right. And I think when people start, I outgrew the W2IHY stuff in about 3-4 weeks, say a month, yeah, just over. I
mm,
outgrew that so quickly because I just realised that, yeah, okay, it's really good. You can tailor your audio, and some people might be happy stopping there.
yeah,
They might think that's enough for me. I don't need no more. But okay, that's fine. But then there are many, many, many more of us that think, no, I need more. I need more. But again, my best advice to anyone would be to, if you're going to get into it, you need a mic preamp. You buy Behringer. You can buy a Behringer do a new mic preamp now, which also has the USB connection on it as well, so you can use it with your plugins, which is a
okay,
whole new story.
yes, yes,
It's a lovely bit of kit as well.
mm,
Then a 2496, and you could actually stop there. You own two pieces of equipment.
mm,
You
true,
you could get away with just to dip your toe in the water.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
and then you could add some effects if you like at the end, a little bit of
a
plating,
reverb,
reverb.
yep, yep,
Yeah. You can add that into it, just to wet the mix up, as I say. But they don't need to do any more to start with. You will achieve something very quickly with that, and then you'll soon realize, right, I need more.
mm,
Or you might say, no, I'm happy. I'll stop there.
yes,
But
yes.
a lot can be achieved with 2 or 3 boxes. No problem at all.
Yes, yes. One thing that I've noticed, and this picture is really fresh in my head. This has probably happened to me probably 3 or 4 years ago now when I started with this journey. Is that if you're gonna run, for example, dynamic microphones like RE20 and RE27, they are massively gain hungry. Okay,
Oh yeah, yeah,
so then the Behringer is not good enough. Like the transformers in Behringer are not well, the actual power you can push out is just not enough to drive, a gain
no,
hungry dynamic microphone. And then you got to buy this little thing called Cloud Lifter to, boost
yeah,
up your gains. And then
yeah,
the minute you start boosting up your gains, you're raising the noise floor, and then you're going to have all sorts of issues. But again, this is not to discard or or talk badly about Behringer. It's definitely, I agree with you, definitely a very good starting point.
yes,
100%,
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah. Because you'll find with Behringer, as you quite rightfully mentioned, you will soon reach the limits of its quality. You
Yes.
get because I think they'll do 40 or 50 dB gain. You'll get from a Behringer,
Mm,
maybe 60 because they've got an input and an output as well. You can add a bit more in the output, but the more of that you use, you run out of headroom really quick,
yes.
basically.
Yes.
And like the more of its power you use, as you've rightfully said, the more noise you introduce, and
Mm,
it ultimately, if you're creating noise at the top, it's only
yeah.
going to go all the way through it all and come out
Yeah.
at the end.
And look,
So, like we said before,
I remember when I bought my Focusrite preamp, and I've plugged that same RE27 into it compared to the Behringer. Oh my God, Tony, it's like
yeah,
this thing can drive 3 of them at once with
yeah,
with
yeah,
any without any problems. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
you do get what you paid for. Anyway.
Of course you do.
Now, we did mention we started again another can of worms opened microphones. Microphones.
Whoa, that's a
Now
big old can of worms. That is.
it is, mate. Now, and a lot of people out there would say it doesn't really matter. I need to get this straight at the beginning that I'm not a big fan of the condenser microphones. For one very simple reason is that in my opinion, we operate in a very noisy environment, and these microphones are super sensitive. Like I can tell you that, you know, if I connect my Neumann, you know, TLM 103, I can hear my wife in the kitchen, which is, you know, 50 meters that way. You know, stacking the dishes, and I hear these little bumps on the screen.
My wife and my children can walk around upstairs. This is a dual tube condenser microphone.
Yes.
Leighton Audio LT 381 Oceanus.
Yes.
And my children could be bumping and walking around upstairs in the house.
Yes.
And I'm seeing the peaks on my spectrum scope here from them. It's horrendous. I'm not joking. A helicopter goes over my house. It's quite low. My microphone picks it up.
Yeah.
Look,
they have their advantages in terms of the sound quality.
Yes, that's where they are.
1 million %, but they are super sensitive. And now, if we go back to the Behringer issue, if you're going to run the Behringers, go and get yourself a condenser mic, because they don't need to be driven as hard as the dynamic mics.
Not at all.
I've started with dynamics, and I guess I'm very old fashioned, so I'm stuck with them. So I've got a ribbon microphone as well that I've tested at one point in time, but I've given that
beautiful microphone ribbon. Just with a ribbon microphone though, it's you'll know this anyway. But to any newcomers, if you'll see a ribbon microphone and you'll think, wow, that's because they're not overly expensive. SE Electronics do the SE. I forget what it is now. It comes in an SEX something. It's a fantastic mic. But you are into a whole new realm with low end, and you need to have no boosts with the low end with a ribbon, because they naturally produce so much low end. I mean, for me, for any newcomer into audio, I mean, look, Heil do microphones, and they're big into amateur radio. God bless Bob Heil, you know, and all the rest of it. But oh God alive, they're so expensive. They just really are. And when you can go to your beautiful country where you come from, Ivan, Australia, can I get this in the shot? See this microphone here? It's a Rode pod mic. It's about 100, 110 UK pounds, 250 Aussie dollars, perhaps, I don't know, or maybe. And you will get from that 20 kilohertz, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. I think their frequency response is. It's a condenser, as you said. It doesn't pick up all the noise, and it will give you a beautiful sound for a nice affordable price.
You're
not going to break the bank to have one. And when you decide later on, because you will decide to change your microphone, everybody does, it doesn't matter to have that sat in a cupboard or in a box, because it's not cost you the earth. You know, it's a nice backup mic.
True. Microphones are like shoes. I have to say that. So viewers, be warned. I mean, you can end up with a bit of a collection, and it doesn't matter how inexpensive they are. And once you got 10 of them, that's still a bit of coin. But in saying that, I have to say that, you know, and we've said this number of times throughout this episode, is that experimentation is the key. You need to find, you know, what works for you.
Without a doubt.
And you will get there, because let's face it, I mean, how many times you change your component in a Rectoni? Something comes up and it's a good time and right time, right place, like you said, and you bought it. I
forget how many different components I've had. I'm very happy now. I've been here for my last piece I added was my Drawmer 1973. Which was 2.5 years ago now, and I mean, that for me is the amber nectar of compression. It's just gorgeous. I love it. It's very simple, and it's nice. But you change things all the time. I've had so many different microphones, but again, you've just hit the nail on the head by saying you need to experiment a little bit to find what suits your voice characteristics, what you're happy with, what your environment is. If you're in a noisy environment, then please, you know, by all means, buy one of these, but don't think you're going to go on the radio and it's going to be quiet, because it won't. You know, it really won't. These microphones, these you know, these particular ones, I don't know, they just give off an openness and a sound that you just won't beat. I've only ever heard one other of these. A lad here in the UK was using one, and I always wanted one, but again, the price just frightened me to death. I just couldn't afford it. And then a very, very good friend of mine, John G0TIY, he had this one, and he, he basically said to me, "Look, it's not getting used. I've got another microphone that I love." He's got more stores and stuff in his storeroom than you can believe for audio. I tell you, it's like Aladdin's cave. It's such good stuff, and all greatly looked after and modified by him to the highest standard. Fantastic bloke. And he said, "Look, Tony, come and speak to me and come and have this microphone." And I bought this off him for such a fair price. I'm really lucky. It suited me. But my second microphone for me, if this broke and I couldn't get another one, would be a Rode NTK. Again, it's going down the route that won't suit everyone else because of it's a tube condenser mic again, isn't it? Rode NTK. So it's they're noisy. They pick up a lot of noise, but it's the sound that ultimately the sound you get from them is, in my opinion, it's a trade-off with the noise.
Yeah, there is something about the tube warmth, the 100%. And I can tell you that I remember this. I have had the Blue Valve Classic TL audio equalizer, and I remember the sound that I had with that. It was superb. It was superb. The reason why I decided to change it was because I think it was in my head. It's an old technology. It was breaking up every 5 days. I picked up a bad one. Let's just put it that way. I think mine was beaten up to death when I bought it, and I just had enough and went and changed it for a brand new one that wouldn't break.
But of course.
In saying that, I think that you mentioned the last piece of equipment being the Droma 1973. How easy is that to use compared to the Triple C?
It is a breath of fresh air. Absolute breath of fresh air, Ivan. Seriously, I mean, my Triple C, again, this is something that people can look into. It was all Voodoo modified by John G0TIY here in the UK, the Voodoo God, as I call him. Anyway, he did all that for me, and it does add. It's liquid gold when you do it. It's just fantastic. It's amazing. But again, you learn you outgrow it. First and foremost, it's the most troublesome piece of equipment I've ever had in my shack.
Okay,
it's a nightmare. It's got a mind of its own. It's just a nightmare. But
well, look, it's menu driven, so that explains everything.
So heavily,
in terms of to change something, you gotta go in menu, then sub menu, then change it. It's just crazy. So what I was gonna say is that I've got exactly the same unit as you. You can see the two orange lights at the very second to last component there. And my God, like in terms of the simplicity, like they've divided the 3 segments. You got your thresholds, you got attack, release, gain. That's it. Bob's your uncle. Off you go. But again, so I think somebody that will start in this hobby or want to give it a try, how important is a multi-band compression, and how would you rate that amongst all the other gear, and how important is it in your eyes?
If they like what they're hearing, they love eSSB, which they're going to, because if they've gotten to the point where they're thinking of compression, without compression, you've no control over what's happening. You are think of it as a restrictor, if you like, of your audio. It's just allowing you to control what you want to be let through with regards to, as you said, with the Droma, you've got three bands. You've got your low band, your mid band, and your high band. Now, you mentioned earlier in the video, we'll start with the high band, the spitty, the S-in, and all the nasty noises. You can use what's called, without overcomplicating things, you can use what's called a de-esser to help you with that. But that can colour your audio a little bit and can not do you any favours. So, but with a multi-band compressor, you could control that S-in. It could be it's something in the EQ you need to tame down slightly, but usually 9 times out of 10 you'll control it with the high band, the threshold. With compression, the more you drive into the minus, the more compression you're using.
I think the important bit to mention here, Tony, for people that perhaps don't understand the multi-band compression as a new domain, is that traditional compressors, like that are not multi-banded, all right?
Yeah.
If I can put it that way, like my DBX that I've got there, the good old one. So that one is, you set up the parameters. You tell him when you get below this level, you pump up back to that level. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't know how to separate low, mids, and highs. So if the bass hits him first, he will raise up the level. If the highs hit him first, he'll raise up the level. So the difference between the standard compressor and the multi-band compressor is that the fact that you can control each segment.
Each individual segment.
So you will say, okay, well, I've got an issue with sibilances, so let's tame the top end, but leave the bottom end as lively as what it was before. So
for sure. And of course, you go on to the mid band, then you get these nasty sounds. I mean, we all have our own way of describing what the mid range sounds like, but of course, too much compression in the mid range, you'll sound too soft. And what you will find is, you mentioned gain levels, and from each piece of equipment, the more mid band compression you use, you really do take away so much gain. It robs your gain so much. So again, but the beauty of multi-band compression is, as you've said, you have low, mid, and high. You can dial in and dictate what each of those bands are doing on their own. Which is so important to do. It's the major control unit, really, and that's why a compression, any form of compression, needs to be. Excuse me, that was my phone. Any form of compression needs to be at the end of your, or very close to the end of your chain, because it just needs to control everything else. It's a final control,
Yes.
And I think that's very important.
And let's not forget the monitoring, Tony. I think we talked about everything and anything. What's the best way to, if you do have the ability to open up and listen up to this eSSB, voodoo guys, whatever you want to call them? What's the best way to monitor that? I mean, I've got studio monitors here, the big 10 inches ones, or 8 inches Yamaha HS8s, which are pretty flat. Like there's no coloring there. It's reproducing the sound exactly as it is. But I think you got something else you wanted to show us in terms of the monitoring.
Yeah. So for me, the best thing I've ever bought to listen, because you can buy all sorts of headphones. These are Sennheiser HD600s, open backed headphones. So you need to be a little bit careful with them, because you will get a bit of feedback with them. But they are so flat, and the sound from them is just gorgeous. So most headphones you buy, you need to check that they're very bass orientated. They're very heavy with the bass. Okay. So, which is what we don't want, because if we're sat listening and setting our audio up and we think, oh, that sounds a bit heavy, it's more than likely going to be your headphones if they're not right.
Yes.
So that is really important. Speakers wise, as you mentioned, your KRKs, I used to have a set of KRK 10s in here. They were gorgeous. But
I had them, the 5 inches ones, the yellow ones, black and yellow.
They're gorgeous speakers. But of course, because they're amplified, and we're putting another amplifier in an RF environment, they can be an absolute ball ache to keep the RF out of. For me now, the other way I monitor is I have a Samson soundbar in here with a wireless subwoofer.
Okay.
Ultimately, our receivers on our radios are they're just flat anyway. They're flat receivers, so you can tailor it. Of course, you can with the receive EQ, but I never do. I leave it all flat.
Same.
So I never ever turn the bass up at all with the subwoofer. I leave it on 0. And I just let the natural sound come through with that, and that's another easy way of sorting things out. And you can use an optical cable to run your sound from your PC with VAC and other things without getting too complicated. And of course, optical is immune to our lovely friend RF.
Yes, indeed. And one thing you mentioned to me before, which is very important to underline, is that if somebody is interested in buying those Sennheisers, the HD 600s, please bear in mind that they are 600 ohm
Yes.
headphones.
Don't
So
need amplifying.
what that means is that they will be very, very much gain hungry. If you plug them into your, I don't know, domestic equipment, you won't hear enough.
No, you'll be turning the volume up full, thinking, "Christ, these
Yes.
aren't very loud," and it's just
Yes.
because there's not enough oomph in the amplifier to on board. You need external. I mean, luckily for me, my sound card in my PC's got Sound Blast or something or other. It's got a dedicated headphone jack which is
Yes.
amplified, which then does which then does all that for me. So I think that, and you must be careful when you select one of those sound cards. Check what ohms it supports. Some of them do 300, 350.
Yes.
Mine luckily did the 600 ohms as well. So
yeah, fair enough. And Tony, you want to walk us through your rack? I think that's the only other thing I could ask you.
Yeah, of course.
And perhaps explain to us why, or what was the predecessors, like what was there before, and why did you change it, and what did you see in terms of the differences? I think this will be the things that people will be interested in hearing, because I mean, we're going to give them the point is to give them a bit of perspective in terms of what to expect. And because again, you've been as we called it before, through a full circle. I'm pretty sure you'll have enough experience
Circle
there.
of life.
Circle of life. That's it.
For sure. Well, look, here we go. So first and foremost, I now currently use it's called an SPL Channel 1. It's a valve mic preamp. And I got this one. I started with a Behringer, and I can't remember the make or model of the first Behringer mic preamp I started with. It's a silver fronted one, as they all are. The new one they do Behringer is red, and I can't think of the name. But anyway, so I started off with a Behringer mic preamp. But as we touched on earlier, you soon realise that you run out of gain, and it's a bit noisy, and it's not necessarily the best. But for I think it's about 120 UK pounds. You for that sort of money, you won't get any better. Of course, you won't for around that price. But with what I wanted to do going forward, I thought, well, I need to change. So there was a few other SPL type mic preamps I had, and they just they just didn't quite suit what I was doing.
Is Channel 1 solely a preamp, or is it like a channel strip? Does it got like a compression and stuff? Yeah.
It is. It's a channel strip. It is. So it has a funny enough, a headphone amplifier built in. Yep. It has some other nice little touches on it. So it's got a de-esser built in.
Yep.
It has a compressor and a limiter built in. It also has a noise gate built in as well, which I do use. I do use. And it has something called an air band. You can have some pre-compression distortion added to it and all sorts of things. But and it also has 48 volts, because something we haven't touched on with the microphones is some microphones require a little bit of power to run.
Yes.
So this has 48 plus 48 volts on it as well. It has a few low pass and high pass filters as well on it. But apart from the noise gate and the mic preamp side of it, I don't use any other of its features.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so.
That's what happens. But it's such a lovely unit. Again, I bought it. This was a second-hand piece that would cost you brand new. This is about, I think they're about £1,200 UK new. I stumbled across that for, I think it was 350 or 400 UK pounds.
Yeah.
Somebody bought it. They didn't want to take it on the road with their band, their group, because it was too good to damage. And it was just collecting dust, and they sold it me. So
there is there's a new version of that. I've checked it the other day.
Mark 3 or Mark 4, isn't it now?
I think Mark 3. It's a silver one, silver faced.
Yes,
but same concept. It's still a tube. SPL does. SPL is made in Germany, isn't it?
It is, I believe. Yeah.
So,
and the reason for SPL and SPL was. There's no real reason for SPL. I just really like this one, and I did a bit of homework on it. Google is your friend, your best friend in the world. Google these things. There's so many different reviews where you can read about these different items. And Number one, I've got 60, nearly 70 dB again if I need it, which I'll never ever need that. So you've got loads of headroom. Number one.
Yeah, massive.
And number two, I've put a I've forgotten the make and the model of the tube I put in. I've changed the valve, the tube in it, and
the RCA Black Command.
Yeah. I've changed the tube in it from the standard one, and the sound it gives you is just beautiful. It really, really is. It's got a lovely, rich, warm crackle that you just don't get from a solid state mic preamp. In my opinion, that is, again, just my opinion.
Well, I'm pretty sure
there they are.
Probably not a lot of people that are fans of the Soviet stuff anymore, but these are the original Svetlanas, the Russian tubes, and
there they are.
well, look, they're not RCA Black Command, whatever they call tubes, which are, I think, bee's knees when it comes to the audio tubes. I'm pretty sure it was like 1217 or whatever the.
I think there's a 12AX7 in here originally.
Yeah, spot on. I was just about to say.
There it is. And I put a Electro Harmonics gold plated. And the number now eludes me. I've forgotten. It's been that long ago since I changed it. So I've forgotten what it is, but I changed it. I upgraded it. And many people will say to you, you're wasting your time. It don't make no difference changing them tubes. Well, I beg to differ. It does make a big difference. It does. It makes a huge, huge difference.
Well, look, I have to admit, I'm very biased when it comes to tube equipment. I like the tube sound. I can definitely pick the difference between the transistor and the tube. I think the tube's got something unique to offer, like in that soft low end and the warmness. But again, horses for courses, as they say.
Of course. Yeah. And it's nice that we have the choice. And for me, your FET stages and your solid state sort of stuff, I have nothing against it. And ultimately, that's where we're all going to end up eventually, I think. Because the tubes are I mean, they don't produce. Well, I think China are starting to produce some tubes now, but it's the way it's going to go, unfortunately. But
fair enough. So next one.
Okay, so next piece is this is the 2496. So this is in bypass. It never gets used anymore. So I won't talk too much about that, but that is the Swiss Army knife of pieces of equipment that we mentioned earlier.
Can I just tell you something? I've got mine in exactly the same spot, just right below my preamp. And the only thing that's been used right now for is the metering that is got on display. I actually like the look of it.
You've got it in one. That's what I do. I have the display bouncing up and down with the RTA, the real-time analog.
Yes.
I have that bouncing up and down with the peak holds. It just reminds me of my younger days when I had the big full-size Technic stack system with all the spectrum analyzer, and it just looks beautiful. When I talk,
it does.
So that's a bit of bling, that is.
And then we go. It is definitely a bit of bling. And then we go back to the beauty, the blue one.
Yes, the EQ2 dual parametric valve equalizer by TL Audio Valve Classic. This little baby is. I've had quite a few different. Well, I say quite a few. I had the 2496. I've had an Auburn 672, which was a beautiful EQ parametric. And then I was very, very lucky. Somebody didn't want to see this collecting any more dust, so I managed to bag this Valve Classic EQ parametric, which is it's just beautiful. I think it's what are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're eight channel EQ parametric, and it is just beautiful. The sound that it gives you ultimately is well, I don't know. I've never had nothing that can replicate it, and I don't think I'd ever want to get rid of it. To be honest, I don't think I'd ever want to change it. It uses 6 tubes, unfortunately, and it gets very warm, and they are all uprated. And I think there are commands, black plates in it. The chap I bought it off had done all that already, so I've never opened it, touched it, and it's just beautiful.
Hey Tony, we did speak about this before, and I just wanted to bring this up again because it's the right time right now again. There is this misillusion or disinformation about that you need 25 different banks of EQ in order to tailor your audio. What are you going to say about that, mate? How many banks are you using?
Well, I use six banks of EQ. That's all I use. But I must say, when I had the 2496, I was using. Let me just check what we. How many we've got 10
Yes.
bays we can use.
10,
It's a 10 band parametric.
Yes.
So so I must say that I did always use all of those, and I thought I had to use all of them.
Yes.
Again, it's you're a newbie, you're fresh,
Yes.
you think you need it, you just don't.
And this is
to be honest,
going back to that thing, less is more, isn't it?
Without a doubt, yeah, less is 100% more. You don't need it all. I know some people that will use 4, 5 bays of their EQ, and the rest is redundant. They don't use it. I feel the need to use 6 just because of some of my top end I don't like, and I ironically I cut at about 1K. I have to have a little bit of just a little cut there because it doesn't sound too good.
And give me some general idea of what are the 6 banks. I'm not interested in Qs and whatever, but just as a general guidance. I mean, well, in your particular case, what did you do there? 80, 160, 320, 500?
Yeah. So I have a very, very, very narrow, as I just described earlier, narrow boost at about 40 hertz, 45 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
I then have 80 hertz cut.
Mm-hmm.
I then move to 160 hertz, which is a cut, which is a nasty, nasty frequency for all of us. It's horrible. You need to get rid of that. Then I'm around about sort of it's roughly about 350, maybe 400-ish hertz for me. Is my mid-range cut. Lower mids, of course, that would be. And then I have a cut at 1K, and I actually got a cut at 2K as well, because it just helped me with how I sounded. Again, all these frequencies will differ between us all because of how we all sound different, our characteristics, our voice. So that's what I do there. And I've all those frequencies. One is a very slight boost. The rest are all cuts, no boosts.
Yep, fair enough. Well, to be honest with you, I was living under the same illusion that you need 25,000 different banks.
Yeah.
But then you start running into the overlapping stuff. Then you're starting to understand the Q, like I said before, because if you got a slightly wider Q at 500, that affects frequencies all the way up to probably 350, and then 650 on the other end. Not as much as what it does it at 500, but it still affects them. And then people that don't know that, they say, okay, well, let's just do 600 again, and then you overlap that on the bottom end, and you're thinking, well, no, it's just not really needed, not really necessary.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, the most important frequency for me, and it will be very important to everyone, not necessarily 80 hertz. 160 is very important, but 80 hertz. I mean, if I introduce, that's my 80 hertz cut. I don't know if that's come across on the audio. It may or may not have.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, this is how I would talk to people on HF. Now, on here, it might sound quite tinny, quite different, very thin. But you produce that on HF, and I get nothing but glowing reports for this. For here on, we've got much wider audio spectrum here anyway on here. So I'll bring that back out. That's how important 80 hertz is. That's what it does. It's such an important frequency to use. It'll sound awful without it. Well, you'll just sound like you've got a pair of socks in your mouth and you're talking. It's just muffled, awful. It's not good. I mean, in general, the whole EQ setup is so important. I mean, if I went like this and went like this, that's with no EQ at all, and it's going to sound different. That's for sure. And I'll put it back in, so we're back to normal. But so it's a very, very important piece of equipment, and I think if you're heavy into it, you will go into a big heavy duty EQ, because you'll realize that you just get to tailor how you sound, and like you said earlier, you do get what you pay for with the overall quality of the end product.
True. Hey, have you seen that version of the of the TL audio. It's called Ivory Series, so it's the whitish face.
Yes, yes.
But it's also tube EQ. I've seen it the other day, and it's not that expensive, to be honest with you. But I'm just wondering if you ever had a chance of playing with it. I've heard anybody that's been
Yes.
playing with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, Nigel EI8ITB, he got one, and a few other people I know use them,
Yeah.
and they are very, very good for the money.
Of course.
You know, if you want to step into the world of tubes,
yes,
and get yourself something like that, that's where I'd be with it. You know, they're fantastic. They really are.
I think it was 5013 or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, yeah. I think
TL audio. I even wrote it down here. EQ 5013 Ivory Series.
That's it. Yeah, ivory. Yeah. Ivory for its coloring on the front. It's like a off-white color. Yeah,
off-white.
It's a lovely, lovely bit of kit, and they are good, and they're a nice, cheap way of jumping into some sort of tube setup with your EQ.
And of course, everybody that gets into tubes will be, I would say, at some stage, earlier or later, prompted to to think about, hey, if I change the tubes, would that affect the sound? And they'll probably go and get some expensive tubes, and they'll make it even better. So,
I mean, one thing I will mention, and I won't touch on this for too long, but with the TL audio stuff, and right the way through the range, whether it's the Ivory series, the blue, I think the HBO Radius they do, which is the purple one, which is for the American market, they're all the same. Where to get this, as you can use your ears, of course you can use your ears, but there's a program we can put on the PC, and it will monitor your frequencies for you quite accurately. Actually, it's called Spectra Plus, and what I did was I injected some pink noise into this from an iPad or something into this blue beauty here, and then I took the output then straight down to my PC so the Spectra Plus could monitor my frequencies, because TL Audio weren't very accurate with their numbering on the dial in here, because on the frontage, because you could think you're at 1K and you're not. You're at 800. It's quite way off. And now that sort of 200 hertz could make a huge difference.
Yes.
So what I did was I went out of my way to do that. I dialed in what I thought is where I needed to be, and then the very slight adjustments then you can go and make later by monitoring yourself, which is something that's very important, which we can mention afterwards. But yeah, that's something I had to do with it just to make sure it was somewhere near right.
Yeah, fair enough. So to wrap up this EQ story, which I think is of utmost importance for everybody, I would say general frequencies would be around about 80, 160 at the bottom. So there are definitely cuts. 500 your nasally frequency, which is in that region, and
300 to 800 hertz.
Yes,
anywhere from 300 to 800 will be where, for me, I've just said 3-ish, 350, 400-ish for me, but anywhere from 300 up to 800 hertz really will help control your mid-range massively.
Yes, but people need to be aware that that mid-range is where the most audio energy is concentrated. So if you cut that if you cut that, that thing, I would say probably from 500 to 1K, it's very powerful region. And if you cut that, you will rob you of your gains. Like there's no tomorrow.
For sure. Yeah, your output power will suffer tremendously if you don't make the gain up somewhere else.
Yes. So you gotta be mindful of that. All right, and then after that you got, let me guess, the EX3200, yeah?
No. My next piece of equipment.
Bellari,
is my beautiful Bellari. Again, right place, right time. I owe my life to John G0TIY for all these pieces, Anyway, so before this,
562.
This is the 562. It's a stereo tube again, sonic exciter. So basically, before I had this in line, I didn't use anything. And then I got talking to a friend, and he said, "Have you tried a Portec type EQ?" Okay. So I was running the Warm Audio. It's an EQP WA stereo. Sorry, not stereo. It's just a Warm Audio EQP WA Portec, which ironically focuses heavily around the 80 hertz region, and it does a lot in the top end. But it just adds a gorgeous bit of sprinkling of gorgeous sound to the audio. And I use that for ages. There's a few tricks of the trade you can use with that piece of equipment. I'm trying to think of the company that make one, and it's really, really affordable. It'll come to me in a minute, and I can't think of the people that make it.
Oh.
Clark Technic.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever heard of these people.
Yes.
Now
yes.
they do some nice stuff, and again, it's really affordable. It's pretty good. But anyway, I got talking to a friend, and he said, again, John G0TO, I said, I've got an RP562 spare. He said, are you interested? And I said, you bet your bottom dollar I am. I want that. I want that. And I put it in line alongside the EQ Pultec. Now, because the units do very similar things, they conflicted really bad, and the one would cancel the other one out. So I couldn't use both, so I had to choose. And for me, this Bellari RP562 just came up trumps. It really, really did. That the sound that it just, I don't know what it does. It's just nuts what it adds. It just adds a lovely bit of
touch,
presence to the audio, and just a lovely touch. I don't know if I switch it off here now. I don't know if you can notice any difference in the sound.
yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So this is the RP562 without the RP562, and I'll put it back in line, and there she goes. She's back in line. So yeah, it's just I took so long to decide what to do, and because I really loved my Pultec style EQ, but this Bellari is for me night and day the champion of it. It just adds such a lovely sprinkling of magic to the sound.
Yeah, I love that unit. I have to say that I'm kicking myself because I had an opportunity not long ago to buy one here in Australia in a mint condition, and the fella wanted 500 Aussie dollars, and I said no, because I think, you know what, I don't need it, because I already got the 204, which is, obviously very similar unit to the 562, but I think I wanted the Bellari because of the good old 4187 days, like, all the Woody boys used to use it and that sort of stuff. It's more for the nostalgia reasons than the actual need. But so I decided to stay with the Aphex. And you got the EX3200, or what's below the Bellari?
Yeah, so next in line then is the legendary Behringer EX3200, which you mentioned, that lovely frequency where all the audio boys used to get to on 20 meters. This little box is just amazing. It's all been modified. It's all Voodoo modified. All the op amps have been changed. Again, G0TIY John did all that for me. And you are the difference it makes when you change them op amps. A lot of people will say, nah, it doesn't make any difference. It does make a difference. It really, really does. You're talking, this is pure liquid gold with the difference with that. Again, it's multi-band enhancer exciter, if you like. Some may say, oh, isn't that similar to the Bellari? But yes, in name, but no in actual what it does. So for me, I mean, with its bass processing, its surround processor, it's an evil unit that you must be careful with, because I call them increments. When you turn the dials, you can feel the little notches, increments. Again, with this unit, little is so much more with it. You don't need loads of it, because you'll just overcook everything and it'll just sound all flabby, low end, bottom end. You'll just lose all your control. Well, you'll be sending your the item that's next in line. You'll be sending your compressor nuts. You really will, trying to get it, trying to control everything. So, the EX3200, again, they're becoming so hard to find, though. They really, really are. There are some equivalents out there. Behringer do an equivalent now, and you will forgive me because I've come here and I can't remember the model number of it. But there is an equivalent.
It's a
3040. 3040, sorry. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. That's the equivalent to it, and it does a damn good job as well. A damn good job. It's not bad at all.
I looked into that because I can tell you a quick story of I was just flicking through the Facebook Marketplace about 2 or 3 months ago, and I found this guy with the listing of Behringer EX3200. And he looked in a Mickey Mouse mint condition. So I rang him, and he goes, "Yeah, well, come by the the office when you finish work, whatever. So I came back and he says, how much do you want for it? He goes, $90. $90. And so I gave him 100 and I said, I don't want to change. Here you go, keep it. And I don't use it. It's in a cupboard, but I am intending to. This is going to be one of those. I find the electronics work very calming for me. So I'm gonna try to replace the op amps in it. And look, if I stuff it up at the end of the day, it's $90 invested, I guess. 100.
No, that's right.
But in saying that, I've looked up the op amps from that Voodoo Labs recipe. They listed out everything you need to change, and it's about 16 of them.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. Oh my God, yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted to do.
No,
I tell you now, you need your wits about you. But there's something I forgot to mention. I'm just going to backtrack really quickly. The RP562.
Yes.
Now, Behringer, again, I keep on about Behringer, and I'm not plugging anything for them. I'm not sponsored by anything, but I'm just trying to get people to, because it'll frighten them to death when they see the prices of this stuff, and I don't want to scare anyone off. But Behringer do a 9920. I'm not sure if you know about this unit, Ivan. Well, it's as close to the RP562 you're going to get without buying one.
Okay.
Never
heard of that.
It's a fantastic piece of equipment, and it does. It's not It's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, but it really does add something that's very, 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 very good.
Is that still in production? That's current?
Yeah, it's brand new. Behringer. I'll just check I'm giving you the right model number. I'm sure it's the 9920. It is, because you said 3040.
It is. SU 9920. Yeah. Yeah,
there she is. Yeah. So as you can see, it's what are they calling it? A sonic ultramiser. They're naming it as, but but it's a fantastic piece of equipment. Which
I've seen this before. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, if you can't afford a Pultec and you can't afford, or you can't not so much afford one, can't bloody find a Bellari RP562, which there is a slightly newer model to the one I've got, which if you buy before a certain year of manufacture, still works okay. Bellari took it upon themselves to change the transformer in there on the later models, and it just adds loads of noise and hum to the transmission. It's awful. Anyway, yeah, they do. So the 9920 is a really good addition to anyone's rack if they wanted to add that sort of it's not tube, of course, but if they wanted to add that sort of sonic excitement to it, you know.
That's interesting. To mention that. And you know what, when I searched for the Aphex gear, I was like extremely lucky to find this sister state. It was the sister state of this producer guy that had, a full garage of Aphex gear. You would not believe it. It was like a like you said before, Aladdin's cave.
But that's a rare find now, Ivan. You can't find it no more. It's slowly going.
And Tony, they were all in brand new condition, not a scratch on them. So I bought three. One's with Onda, one's with Adam, and one's here. So So
one each.
One each. So it's but it's, you're right. It's becoming a bit of a hen's teeth.
Yeah, a bit of a chore to find. So all hail Behringer for making the 9920 for us, because, like I said, whilst it's never going to be an RP562 Bellari, but it's still something that is very, very good,
and it's affordable.
And it really is affordable. What is it? About £100, 95 pounds UK pounds here. So
300 Aussie dollars. There you go. So it's very cheap, cheap as chips. Yeah. All right, and then well, I will just to finish that off. I will endeavor to finish up that mod somewhere along the line, and I'll report back and let you know if I stuffed that up.
Yeah, wow, yeah. Hopefully you don't. No, I'm sure you won't. I'm sure it'll go swimmingly. But I think it's removing the op amps off the board is the big issue. Is the biggest issue to do. But solder suckers and all the rest of it, I'm sure you. Yeah. I don't need to tell you how to suck eggs there. You know what you're doing more than anyone. Yeah. So you'll be fine with that. So okay, so moving on to the penultimate then. This is the absolute beautiful, and I love Drawman 1973. So it's a 3-band stereo FET. I did say that word FET in amongst all my tubes. FET compressor. Yes. 3 bands, multi-band, call it what you will, of compression, and it is for me the Rolls Royce. I think of all the pieces of equipment I've added, this for me has added the most difference to the overall sound. And I know that will sound mad, because it's not adding no effects, it's not adding no sonic excitement, but it's just the way in which it
Control.
does its compression and control.
Yeah.
It's just the ultimate piece of equipment, I think.
It is a massive difference. Look, if I flick the bypass switch on it, and then record myself and then engage it again, the difference is massive. Absolutely.
Well, I wonder if I can. I don't know. That's in bypass now. I don't know if you can hear any differences. It may go a bit louder. I don't know, and things may change slightly. But again, on this recording, it might be a little difficult to hear it. But that's with it in bypass, and that's with it. It back in line. Of course, compression as well. Something that's quite important with compression is it's not to be used as a loudness tool then either. That's something that's really important as well, because some people will crank the gains up too much and they'll say, "Oh, I turn my compressor off and all my sound disappears." Well, that means you're not quite right with it. You've got to get it to a different sort of stage with it. And again, this all sounds so complicated, and it might be a lot for people to digest a minute, but it will come in time. You'll understand how it all works. It's quite self-explanatory once you get into it,
That's where that gain staging that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video was at utmost importance. What I do normally is I inject pink noise at a preamp, and then you follow the track in each piece of equipment, and making sure that at the end you got what you ejected at the top. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you got to make up gains, you do it along the path, and then at the end you got something that's, and then for me that would be probably step number one that everybody would need to do, making sure that you're not losing your gain along the path of the audio chain.
Of course.
Then you go and tailor it, and then if you do lose it somewhere along the along the path, then you gotta make it up, as you said.
I mean, two stages of through the rack are your highest possibility of losing gain. Are one, your EQ with your mid range. If you we said about mid range. If you're doing too heavy a cut there, you're gonna really cripple your gain. And secondly is your gain again in the mid bands, mid band compression. Again, there's two possibles there, where the way you've done that with the pink noise starting from the mic preamp all the way down through, you just basically get to see sort of on the fly, real time, what it's all doing, and you can just make the adjustments as you need to with the gain levels. It's very, very important. Now, with the compression, you have low and high crossovers as well, which they're quite important. Now, one of the things I learned along the way, you can really control your low end, obviously with the low band compression, but where that low band compression starts from as well is quite important with your low crossover points. They're quite important. I think mine is about 160 hertz, thereabouts, maybe 140 roughly.
I'm in between. Well, what's that? 100 and 200. I would say roughly in between. So 150, I would say, thereabout. Yeah.
That's sort of. Yeah, that's sort of where I am. Maybe just edging over that slightly, but again, you've got to listen, and you've got to make your choice with that, and just take your time to listen. One of the things as well that I must mention before we move on to the last piece is I call it jokingly fatigue of the ear. Yeah. So if you're listening to yourself, which we'll touch on in a minute, how to monitor yourself. If you're listening to yourself, please set yourself a timer up and don't do any more than about 20 minutes, 30 minutes maximum. Any more than that, and you'll come back the next day, listen to it, and think, what the hell was I thinking yesterday? Yes. But your ears get so tired so quickly. And it's not a case of, oh, you're getting old, you're going deaf. That's not the case. You just become accustomed to hearing something. And one of the other very important things is whatever radio you're starting with. If you're starting with an Anand, let's say someone's been out and bought an Anand, never set your EQ up for 8K or 10K or 6K. Always set it up in the narrowest bandwidth you're going to use. For me, it was 4K. Because the minute you hear your audio at a wider transmission and narrow it back down, it will genuinely sound awful in your cans.
Yes.
It will sound awful.
100%. And you know what?
Start narrow.
Now that you mentioned that starting narrow, one thing that I've noticed also is that, let's face it, we we are in love with audio, and we talk to like-minded people, and all over the globe and all over the world. But the reality is there's not very many of us out there.
No.
And the what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be talking to, everyday job logs who is running a 7300 with the RX filter at, 2.5K. So
yeah.
what I tend to do is, I do set up my audio for the lowest, like you said, for the 4.2, I think is my settings, on the lowest.
That's where I am.
And then I try to listen, like I put a filter like at 200 at the bottom and 2.9 at the top, and try to listen here. How does that sound to a normal person with no ability to open up the receiver to hear this, beautiful high fidelity? That's also important, because if you tailor your audio for 4K, do not be confused, because not everybody will be listening to you in 4K.
No, that's very true. As I said earlier, you will only sound as good as the person the other end can hear you.
Yes.
If they're not like-minded with the same similar sort of radios and bandwidths to listen at and all sorts. I mean, the thing is, and this is where low end and bass is so, you've got to be so careful with it, because as you've rightfully said, somebody listening at, I mean, ICOM, for instance, I keep saying ICOM, nothing wrong with ICOMs. I'm just using them as an example. They are 100 to 2.9. It's as simple as that. So ultimately they're listening at 2.8K, okay, but starting from 100. So anything underneath that, it's going to sound like you've got your hand over your mouth like that, because it's going to sound really muffled. So you need to bear in mind, and you've got to keep people happy. I have something on my Apache Labs, my Anand, which I call the DX profile. I never ever touch my EQ anymore. That's done. Yes. But what I do is on my Anand, I have 1 dB of compression, and but you have the ability to be able to dictate how low you want to start your transmission, and obviously how high wide you want to go. I start my transmission at 60 hertz, out to 4,200, 4,200, 4.2K, and with the 1 dB of compression, I can speak to some of the old timers, God bless them, the G3s, the G4s, some of the G0s. Now they're getting old. I'm going to get so much stick for saying that. But they all say to me, "Wow, that audio's so clear, crisp." Now, bearing in mind, and I can talk to people local, and I can use that DX profile, talk to people like yourself, thousands of miles away, and they all say the same thing, and that's really, really important, because if you're too muffled, then you're just going to get loads of stick off people and not going to be able to understand you. So that again leads me to little is more with that EQ.
Yeah, look, I do exactly the same. As a matter of fact, like you said before, EQ is done, we park that, we don't touch it. All right. So in that little profile box at the bottom right-hand corner on the Anand, all I do if I want to talk to the DX people, the red DX station, whatever that is, I'll just put the bottom cut 150, the uppercut 2900.
That's right.
And then like I sound like a jet pilot. You know what I mean? There's no quality in it, but who cares? I can still talk.
You've ripped through it all, and of course, one other thing is we mentioned starting your EQ process at your narrowest choice of bandwidth. So, but you get that right there, whether it's with the processor on or off, which if I'm in ragtune mode, I don't use a processor compression or anything. But what will happen is you get that right, and all that beautiful high fidelity sound when you widen that bandwidth up will naturally be there. You don't need any boosts in your top ends, purely because it's there naturally just by opening up the transmission.
Yes.
Anything 4, 5, 6, 7, 8K and on it's just all. A lot of people call it hiss. It's not quite just a hiss sound. It's definition, clarity. It's just coming in with the wider transmission. Like we said earlier, we're cramming so much information into a very narrow passband. It's difficult to do. And I tip my hat and I shake the man. I buy the man a pint, a cup of tea, whatever he wants. But the man that can get it right at 3K, he's worth his weight in gold, because that's difficult, very difficult to do.
I have to mention that I have spoken to a Japanese station. I cannot remember the exact call sign, but I know it ends in MQM. and that guy transmits 3 kilohertz,
Yeah.
and it sounds superb. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
no, I have heard people doing it, and I think just wow. And again, I'm going to use ICOM as an example here. But pure simplicity with an ICOM radio,
Yes,
you switch it on, you set the TBW transmit bandwidth to its wide. I think they call it wide on ICOM.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
and you just go +1 on the bass, +4 on the treble, and with a desk mic, even with the fist mics nowadays because they're very good.
mm,
It does sound very good, very
yeah,
good. So I mean, if that's what they want to do, that's what they'll do. But from an eSSB point of view, what we've said with regards to starting with the bandwidths and just little is more, it's so important.
yeah, true. And I think the only last thing to mention, Tony, well, not the last thing again. Jesus, there's so many things to cover in this
Yeah.
topic. I think people will be absolutely gobsmacked in terms of how much of material there is
Oh yeah.
in this realm of audio for HF.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's a huge. There's a very little of us. There's very few of us, but it's a huge subject. It's crazy the amount of material for us to go out and get and digest.
yes,
Is massive. There's loads on the internet, and
spot on.
people will. You might end up going down the wrong path. To start with, you might think, "Oh God, what have I done this for? I need to go the other way." Don't worry about that. That's part of the experiment.
Yes.
You'll find out where your roots will lie, and you'll make your own path in it. But
Yes, spot on.
there's
What
just
yeah, you go.
one more piece of equipment, Ivan. We'll finish this subject off, and that is again Behringer.
Oh,
It's
the
the
FX.
the FX 2000. Yes.
Yes.
So this is this adds the gorgeous bit of reverb. Again, a powerful tool. You can go a little bit too much and sound like you're you might be on channel 19 with an echo reverb mic or something, but done correctly,
Yeah, Roger.
it adds a lovely moisture and wetness to the mix. It's just gorgeous. I mean, I can switch. It's very dry sounding and very mono sounding without it. That's it in bypass. I don't know. I don't even know if you're gonna hear it over here.
I'm hearing it. Oh yeah, 100%.
You are.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's with it off, and of course, just adding it. I mean, you can make yourself sound like you got your head in a bucket. No problem. That's easy to do.
Yes.
That is. But I mean, I use with this. I think you have a mix button on here, which applies the amount of reverb you want to hear, echo if you like. And I think mine's on number 2 or number 3, maybe. It's very subtle, but there are some lovely settings in it, which again, John NU9N, Mike WZ5Q. They've very kindly put a massive amount of information, what settings they think you should start with before you tailor them. And if I'm honest, I've never strayed off their settings. I've always left it how they've recommended. So, and of course, from the back of that last piece, then is, as we touched on earlier, we have the Jensen transformer, and then into the radio. So, yeah, that's the lineup, Ivan.
Fair enough. Well, one other thing I have to mention, because I've seen this or experienced it myself, is the behavior on the band as well. So
yes.
Let's just mention the fact, and this is not to stir the pot at all. This is reality. And if you are potentially interested in becoming part of this beautiful audio modeling world,
you need to grow a thick skin.
Yes, you need to grow a thick skin and be prepared to be called names because you are transmitting at 4.5 kilohertz.
Yeah.
What's your view on that? I mean, I know that the golden rule is never engage, never acknowledge, whatever that is.
Of course,
move on. But
I came into this eSSB when I was an intermediate license holder, so a 2E0 here in the UK, that is.
Yep.
And I got my FTDX 5000, and I was absolutely, you could almost say, bullied. Now, again, I'm not stirring the pot. I'm not trying to make out I'm something I'm not. I would never do that. because I'll help anyone, and my whatever I've learned and I know is yours for free. I don't care. I love to share. This is what the hobby's about.
Yes.
But if these sorts of people were to be in a local bar, which I don't drink, by the way, I'm a strictly teetotaler. But if they spoke to me in the way they did on the air in a local bar, then there would be trouble, big trouble. I would not have it. I would not have that. My mother, God bless my mother, would be looking down on me saying, I never brought you up to speak to people like that. How dare you do that?
Yes.
It's disgusting the way they treat people, and it's absolutely wrong. And I was picked on. I won't say bullied, because I told them where to go and just leave me alone. But
yes,
but they do single you out, because exactly what you said. You're a nice big signal. You're a wide signal. I call it the skid mark down the waterfall. You know, it's huge, and they don't like it. But do you know what I honestly believe it is, Ivan? And I'm sure of this. It's called the green-eyed monster jealousy. I think you sound lovely. You sound amazing. They want to know how to do it, but they don't understand how to do it. So therefore they become jealous.
Yes.
And then they give you this abuse that I think is just totally unacceptable. Like we said, if you're going to do this, it has gotten better. It's almost become accepted now, which is lucky, which is good for us as well. But if you're going to do it, if you're going to engage with these people, then you need a script in your head. Stick to that script. You're doing nothing wrong. It's not illegal. You're allowed to do it. It's even mentioned here in the UK in our ban plan that eSSB is allowed in the all mode section. So, I mean, I just tell people to read the ban plan correctly, and the notes to the ban plan if they do mention it to me. I don't get nothing said to me anymore, because ironically, I passed my my full exam, my M0, which only took me four goes. It was really, really difficult for me, and immediately I got left alone. Whether I earned a bit of respect from a few people because I'd gone the whole hog and passed the full ticket, I don't know. Again, there's always that little bit of snobbery with the licensing, I think, which shouldn't be as well.
Well, look, I think that it's fair to say that whatever we do in life, and this is not just applied to the audio, but in general terms, it's not always one side that's guilty. It takes two to tango. Is that
of course, yeah, of course.
So I would say that there are some operators that would not use appropriate, let's just call it a technique. Someone will just find a frequency, not even ask, is it in use or whatever that is. And if you know that you're a wide signal, you don't go at 14,200. You maybe go at 14,300. And where you're away from everybody. And you need to. I always say this: you need to acknowledge others.
Of course. Here's the thing. Here's the thing now, Ivan, that you've just mentioned, and this is the golden thing that we all do. It's not just yourself. It's me. It's lots of people. If I'm on 80 meters having a rag chew with the boys, and we want to go out to 8K and have a really good, really good voodoo session, then let's call it a voodoo session like that wide. We go down to 3650. We go right down the bottom of our 80 meter band, out the way of everyone, because we're putting everyone else into consideration there. We're taking them into consideration. I never intended to do eSSB to annoy anyone. That was never my intention. Although some will say they're only doing it to piss people off or annoy people. That's not the case. So I always take everyone else into consideration, and I think we all do that around the world. I think every eSSB operator has the same mindset. They just want to talk.
I agree, but I think that like I said before, and I'm quite happy to explain this to everybody, is that if people have come back to me saying that hey, did you notice that you're extremely wide, and you don't need to be all of a sudden too proud and try to tell them where to go. You need to explain to, because some people would generally be interested in what you're doing, and they might want to just ask a simple question. Why are you 5 kilohertz wide when everybody else is 2? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So I try to be as polite as I possibly can in those scenarios, but I can tell you straight away that I would never park, within a pass band on another station. So if I see a station on, let's say, transmitting at 14,100, I'm not gonna go and transmit on 14,097, and then I'm gonna splatter over them. But on the other hand, if somebody does that to me and I was already there talking, I would have no consideration whatsoever. I'll carry on. And
yeah. That's exactly what we do. But 9 times out of 10, we move for them. So they get away with what they've done, but that's bad operating from them.
it is,
and it's awful, really. To be honest, it's very bad radio etiquette. And I think that
and look, some people probably give him a benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't hear you, or maybe you were not strong enough in that part of the world, or whatever that is. But generally, I think whenever I have played eSSB with a very small group of people here in Australia, you would be very, very well, almost at the bent edges of the 80 meters.
yeah. You keep out the way just because you want a peaceful life as well. That's exactly why we do it. You just want peace and quiet, and of course, I think, it has gotten better. You do hear people talking about it, and bloody idiots going wide and that. You hear it all the time, but I'm quite good. I like to call in when I hear someone saying that. I call into them, and I try and explain to them, and I think a lack of understanding is a big issue. They don't understand fully what we like about it, and they don't appreciate all the hard work we put into it either.
Yeah, true.
I don't think they appreciate that, but sometimes you
don't
you can't educate them.
Yeah, they don't appreciate it, Tony, because they don't know what's involved.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. There are things I could say, but I won't, because Adam will be busy editing otherwise. But sometimes, you can't polish a turd, is what I was going to say. But
yes, you're right.
That might get edited out, man. So
no, that's all right.
Yeah, we'll have a beep on that one. But yeah, it's a fantastic part of the hobby. There's so many different facets of this hobby. Whether it's, look, I don't like FT8, but others do. I don't knock them for that. Some people love the Morse key. I couldn't send Morse if I tried. I love going searching for DX, and I love rag chewing, and I love audio. I love it. That's my hobby inside the hobby, if you like. It's fantastic, and I love doing that. And I also I go and help out at my local club, and I help to teach the new foundation license holders, novices, over here. And that's something I love, giving back everything I've learned. I think that's a big part of the hobby.
And I think that what I think a lot of people would perceive, and this is a very wrong conclusion, is that eSSB operators are very, how should I say it, cocky, arrogant.
Yeah. That's not the case.
I don't think that is the case. So I would say that if anybody's got something they would like to follow up back on this story that we're gonna publish on YouTube, they should feel free to get in touch with you and say, hey Tony, you mentioned this, but how do you do it? I don't understand. Well, look, even if they get you on air, they should be able to ask the question. Is that right?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, anybody that wants to do this. I don't care what the question. The most stupidest question is the one you didn't ask. Make sure you ask that question. Ask it, because we can. Don't sit there in limbo thinking, "Well, how do I do that?" And I'm not bloody asking him. I want you to ask. I want to explain how it's done, and I want people to understand. And the bottom line is, right, which it makes me chuckle. Some of the naysayers, the people that don't or appear to not like it. The first thing they go and do when they go and buy their 101 MP or their 890 or their ICOM or whatever, they go out and buy a desk mic for it, and they want to sound good. So they're not too far from us, really, are they? When you think about it, they only want to sound good. Yeah, of course you do, because you're plugging a studio type mic. They're putting it on a boom arm. They're going to just dial they only want to sound like us, really.
Yes.
Truth be told, just on a slightly different level. We all want to ultimately sound good. That's the bottom line.
Look, I think at the end of the day, you're right. You're absolutely right. Everybody would love to sound good. But look, we do have different perceptions of what sound good looks like.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's important to mention also that, when people are, I think we didn't talk about this at all, when you're tailoring your audio, be careful who you're going to ask.
Oh,
How does it sound? You know what I mean?
Many a good radio has sold from a bad recording.
Well,
That was the absolutely One Nice Voice, that amazing station from America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Bill.
Good old Bill. Yeah, I mean that was a voice. What a voice.
Yes.
ONV was the man, and I've never had the pleasure of speaking to that chap. Been licensed all this time, and I never spoke to him. I wish I would have. But anyway, from all the boys in the UK that spoke to him, and John again, G0TIY always says that one of his phrases, his sayings, with that fantastic accent and that sound. Many a good radio sold from a bad recording, and that doesn't necessarily mean. Well, it can mean that you've listened to a recording that sounds awful, but you have to be careful who you ask, because again, you're only going to sound as good as the person the other end it can hear you. And if they're not listening right with the right headphones, with the right setup in general, you're going to get a bad report, or a report you're not going to want to hear.
It's not just that, Tony. It's subjective, mate.
Oh, massively. Yeah.
I like red, you like blue. So make sure that you monitor your audio yourself. I think you mentioned this once before, when you transmit into a dummy load and just listen on a RX2, or find a way.
Or an AirSpy HF dongle, or an RSP1A, or if you can listen on a second receiver, then do so. We're very lucky with the Anam. We've got a second receiver. I flick it to my dummy load. I run about 1 or 2 watts. You know, you're still showing an S9 on a second receiver. You listen in the cans, and you can record yourself as well that way. And you can listen back. Some people can't cope with talking and listening to themselves because of that slight delay. It makes them go all slow motion. So you just record yourself and you listen back over recordings, and that is the ultimate way to get yourself set up. These radios are so accurate on the second receiver as well. You know, you won't go wrong doing it that way, and that's how I've got to where I am. You know, again, I have to thank all the people along the journey. You know, there's loads. I can't mention them all because I'll be here all day. But everyone, you know, who might watch this video, who has known me from the early days of the audio to now, you know, you're all massively respected and thanked for helping me and putting up with me, because I ask too many questions, and sometimes I'm not the most patient of people, but I've learned to be with this, because you have to be. It takes time. You'll never get the sound you want overnight. It's going to take quite a few attempts, and different equipment, different microphones, as we've touched on, and you may end up with a microphone locker on your wall afterwards with loads of different mics for each day of the week. You know, but it's the journey of it. It's just fantastic.
Hey, can we wrap this up with the Tony speak? So what would be the best? Well, not the best, you know what I mean? I don't want to sound, you know, like an idiot, but what is your ultimate message to the potential newcomer, or somebody that's, you know, halfway there? Doesn't really matter. In terms of, you know, how to approach this, where to take it, how to take it to the next level, and I don't know. I think we explained enough about, you know, what you need in terms of the tools. But I think I think this is a bit of an art. I would say that low end modeling it's definitely a very, very challenging task.
Oh yeah. To reach that you can use we've called it subharmonic lows. You know, where someone speaks and your certain phrases and words you say, you know, that low roll you get. The speakers in your shack will vibrate, and it's like, wow, that's beautiful. But it doesn't happen all the time, you see. My best advice to anybody would probably be something you mentioned. Choose wisely who you're going to ask for help if you need any. And patience. Just take your time. Don't rush. And just go at it nice and steady, and it will come. I mean, a lot of people I know buy the equipment and they sell it really quickly because I ain't doing that. I can't get it right. Well, no, you've not given it enough time. No, I cannot say how many hours I've wasted of my life in the evenings to the early hours of the morning talking to myself.
And I think I want to underline this thing again. We've got that eSSB group as well on the Facebook. And it's really important that people understand that, you know, nobody's gonna throw rocks at you if you ask the question. Nobody's gonna belt you because you asked a silly question or whatever you think that might sound silly. If you need help and you're stuck and you don't know how to approach it, hey, look, at the end of the day, I'm not the mastermind of the eSSB audio. I've got miles, again, of my journey until I. Well, at the end of the day, I think, is it fair to say, Tony, that we are chasing elusive sound? Like we don't know what that is as yet. But
No, I don't think. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we'll never get to that 100% holy grail we're all looking for. I don't think we will. I think what we I mean, ultimately, I think it's a case of every day is a school day with audio. Every day is a school day where we learn something new every day. None of us are experts. We're all learning along the way. None of us are complete experts. I think everything's new from. I don't know. I mean, and sometimes you'll, especially when you're new to it, you'll want to keep changing stuff and moving stuff around, and that's good because you're learning, and most importantly, you're understanding your own equipment as well. The more you tinker with it, the more you'll understand how it works and what it does.
Yes.
But yeah, I think every day is a school day, and none of us are experts. We're all learning along the way. That's for sure.
Yeah, true. Well, Tony, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you. I know we've spoken a number of times and we're always in touch via various mediums, but I was really honored and privileged to have you in what I intend to keep going with some with eSSB enthusiasts around the globe. Hopefully, I'm gonna find another few that will be willing to give us an hour or two of their time, like you did.
More victims.
Victims, that's it. Yeah, but I think it's all for the greater good. I would say it's.
I think it's amazing. I mean, it's got to be done. I think there's somewhere for them to go. And look, here's hoping we can do a few more. Me and yourself, Ivan. Maybe in the future we'll get 2 or 3 of us in here as well, perhaps, and we can sort of bounce off each other. That'll be good.
Yeah, but I need to apologize to all the viewers because of the. I'm not exactly sure what the video quality is and what the audio quality is. We're recording this via Zoom, and that's definitely not a platform that's been tailored for high fidelity.
Every day's a school day, Ivan. We're learning. It's the first one, and I'd like to make an apology if someone sat here all the way through this and watched it. Well done. Thank you very much. I love you loads, but there's lots of dust in my shack, right? This never, ever happens because I'm having new flooring. I'm having lots of house renovations done, and the dust in here is unreal. The painters and decorators are in 2 weeks. Once they've finished, I can clean everything then. I'm not doing it twice. I refuse. So that's my excuse for the dust, and it's true.
Hey, look, I have to say I'm very pedantic about the shack appearance, and this is definitely my sanity corner. If I need to run away from everybody and close the door.
Yeah, it's my little retreat. This is. I spend so much time in here. I love my radio room. I really do, to be honest. It's a break away from everything. But I'd like to thank everyone for listening and watching if they have. And look, my email is good on QRZ. Any questions? And I just hope we can do this again, Ivan. I'd love to do some more with you as well. Yeah,
sure,
whenever the time's ready.
Well, once again, thank you, Tony. And for the rest of the world, Tony M0VDO. And what you're seeing on a screen, then he will tell us this joke another day, is M7VDO. That's his lovely wife.
That's my beautiful wife. That is, that's the. I'm the better looking one, by the way.
You're the better looking one, yeah. But yeah, once again, Tony, thank you. It was definitely a pleasure, and we'll definitely continue this in another episode.
Yes, fantastic, Ivan. Thank you very much. Been an absolute pleasure, and thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.